So to open, we are with Reverend Dee Coy, who will be doing the talk tonight. I'm going to start by the reading from Emmett Fox. It's called Give It Time. People sometimes accept the idea that a change of thought, plus turning to God in prayer, will transform their lives into harmony and into freedom. The logic of this principle appeals to them. They set work upon it in earnest. And then after a few days they say, well, nothing's happened after all, and they drop back into their old negative thinking. This is extremely foolish. The results of many years of general negative thinking are seldom corrected in a few days. No one who goes upon a new physical diet or medical regimen expects to reap the advantages in so short a time. You must keep up the new way of thinking and refuse to be discouraged by seeming failures at first. The right motive for adopting right thinking is that it is right and that wrong thinking is wrong. And we should do right whether it seems to pay dividends or not. Of course, it does pay dividends, fabulous dividends, but it usually takes a little perseverance in the face of preliminary slowness. And then a quote from Jeremiah, "And ye shall seek me and find me, and ye shall search for me with all your heart." So with that said, we're going to have Reverend Dee give the talk. Would you care to tell us what the topic was for anyone who missed the email?
Oh, I did have a topic, didn't I? Well, I'll tell you what it is now, all right? Today I want to explore this idea of community and why community is important. That's probably enough of an introduction.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. This came to me this is actually our theme for the month, and we've been working this year at my center on awe and wonder, and how that is a practice that feeds us and allows for us to then become absorbed with, or allows us to absorb some new ideas. And we had started out in January. I looked back and saw that this idea of wonder, one of the things it does is it allows us or informs us or gives us permission to question everything. And I think that is an important habit to be in, to question everything. If we don't question, we don't change. And if we don't change, things remain the same, or we would like to think so, because sometimes we spend so much of our energy trying to keep the status quo, because we're happy where we're at. Most of us are happy where we're at, content, fairly satisfied, and we talk about there always being the more. There's always more than what we see. But we're scared of the more because we know we're risking. This idea that everything is in constant flux, the idea that everything changes, scares us because we believe that everything that we've worked for and strive for could be lost in that change, because we could easily change backwards or change forward. This is not what I believe. I don't believe creation, as it moves on and on, ever goes backwards. I don't believe that my being, my soul being, the reality of who I am, ever digresses. And there are some people that, of course, disagree with that. but we never see the point of going backwards in consciousness, of being less conscious than we are, and what would that serve? And so that's what we've been working on at my center this year. And this month we're coming from that place of looking inward to expressing outward. And I know it's probably, this is probably about the right amount of percentage of time and effort spent on this idea of going outward, of expressing outward, because we honestly do spend most of our time on the inner work. And the inner work is critical. And the inner work is never done as well. But at some point, that needs to be expressed in order to create something new. And what we do is we express in community. And I have been promoting to the people I talk to that everybody go into community. And everybody says they already belong to communities. It's just not, it's not where they are spiritually fed. Even if they belong to a faith-based community, they find their spiritual growth is in that inner work, that time spent in meditation, that time spent in reading the scriptures or the sacred texts, and not in sharing that. And what this goes to, the heart of this, is whether or not we are one, whether or not all humanity is one with all of humanity, if all of creation is one with the Creator. And it is what we teach, it is what I believe, that there is a single source that is the Creator, that by whatever name I give it, that thing that is the I am that I am, the beginning and the end, that encompasses all. And that idea that all that is in form came from a void in which the only thing there was spirit. And so spirit makes of itself, comes into form from itself. And so everything that is in form came from that same source of spirit alone. And so that is what moves and has its being in each of us. It's what makes us the same. We talk a lot about what we call the Christ consciousness, which is the idea that God or unconditional love or infinite creativity is reflected in me. And as I come to touch that as the reality of who I am, that it becomes my expression then. And why do I want to express that outside of myself? Why is that important? And it is important in that either I believe that we are all one, or I don't. And if I believe we are all one, then everything I share with myself. And everything that is shared with me is reflected back on those who share. And that idea that my life, as Emmett Fox was saying, our patterns of behavior, our patterns of thought, they become habitual. And if we're not willing to shift them, then they are going to keep us in a repeating pattern. I like what he says about, we do this in my faith. We pray, we give our intention or affirmation into that universal mind, knowing that it is heard, and everything that is heard is demonstrated. And if it's not demonstrated in the next couple of weeks, I am going to figure I did something wrong. I'm going to figure, well, this didn't really work. And that's not a great faith to have, that things work arbitrarily. that I only get answered prayer when I pray for the right thing, or I pray in the right way. So, as Emmett Fox was saying, you do the right thing, and over time, and it becomes what's habitual and what is the pattern of your life. We do a lot of work in the Course of Love too, and a Course of Love has a great deal to do about patterns that come up and healing, how healing looks when it takes place. And we all know we've been healed, we've been forgiven of certain things, we've healed things in our lives, and yet maybe a year later it comes up again, and in a slightly different way. And we realize that those patterns that we've been building since birth over many, many years, I guess, they are stuck in our brain. They are patterns in the way we think. And that's the way the brain works, and it serves us very well in that way, because if we had to realign our thinking every time we wanted to make a decision or choose something, it would take forever just to get out of bed in the morning. But our minds are wired so that they take a certain path of least resistance over and over and over again, and that's becomes the pattern of our lives and a pattern of our thinking. And just because we put a new thought in does not mean that pattern goes away. It is still looking to reactivate. And I don't know about any of you, but I have certain triggers that reactivate a great number of them. And so that's when they come up again, and I realize, all right, I can give up because it obviously didn't work, or I can do it again because I believe that it's the right thing to do. I was touched by someone I was reading in one of the books that we're studying called The Philosophy of Jesus. And it's written by Ernest Holmes, and it talks about Jesus's teaching and Jesus's life as it's presented in the New Testament or the Christian scriptures, and what he does is he shows how that really translates, into a more modern message, into a more metaphysical message. And one of the things he said as we were reading last week was that what he thought was remarkable was that Jesus never tried to influence anyone. And I thought, well, I don't know if that's true. I look at what I see in many of the Christian churches. In fact, probably most faith-based communities of any type, and I see that they are trying to influence me. And so is it possible that I could take the teachings of somebody that wasn't trying to influence and then you use it to influence people? And I think that's what's happened. And I tried to think back into what I know of as the story of Jesus and the stories that Jesus told, to try to see whether or not he was trying to influence people, to get them to change. And I'm thinking, well, what was the purpose of him being here, supposedly? What was except to change how people behaved and how people reacted to each other. And maybe that could be the purpose without trying to influence, because what I realized was that what Jesus as the master teacher was trying to do was to allow people to see the truth, that he was speaking the truth. And if you speak the truth, whether or not anyone is influenced by that, I find is more a matter of my level of patience than it has to do with other people and their spiritual paths. So, taking that to heart, I thought, what is it that we do in community and or as community? And I realized that some communities are very much centered around this idea of being an influence. And that's not the kind of community this is right here and now. This community and the community I serve, I see as being communities that we're more in alignment with that master teaching that what we're seeking is the truth, and what people do with it, what I do with it, what we do with it, falls into place as it needs to in perfect timing, in divine right timing. And the purpose of community then is to allow the space for that so that people can share. Going back to that idea that we're all one, we're all in a single consciousness that envelops the universe, that there's only one mind or one heart, one love. And I'll take it back to Emmett Fox and his thoughts on prayer tonight. That when I pray, I'm not praying to an individual. I'm praying to a mind. I'm praying to all that is. I'm praying to the universal. And if I expect answered prayer, I would expect that answered prayer to come from every corner of the universe. And I expect it to be revealed to me, perhaps by anyone at any time. And if I keep myself cloistered and only do my inner work, I do not get the opportunity for that sharing, which is not from the outside, but from the one to the one. And likewise, as a being, a universal being, as part of the one, I am called sometimes to share, to be part of the answer, because if I have the power that is instilled in me by my Creator to affirm and to create and to co-create and to put an intention out into the universe in prayer, I expect that to be answered, and I have to be in a place to hear. And that hearing can take place in community when everybody comes together for that singular purpose of loving and supporting and seeing each other. We have an expression that the love in me recognizes the love in you. There's several different ways of saying that, but it's the idea that what is my real true self that makes me the same with all in humanity easily recognizes that sameness in you and in each person I meet and each person I'm in community with. And so if that's true, if I really do believe that, and if I really do believe that the whole, being more than a sum of its parts, but every part belongs. Every part is a piece to the puzzle, and every part is important. And whether or not each and every part is equally important, I will leave that to someone who has better judgment than me. as we know, well, even from that reading from Emma Fox today, the idea that that some things are more important than others, and so I can ignore some and pay attention to the others. And one of those things is what's in front of me now, and what's in front of me now becomes very important. Except that I'm not willing to wait then. If the answer to my prayer was yes, and it'll take 16 years, then I will know that it's going to take 16 years. Does that make my prayer less valid? Does it make the answer less valid? No, certainly not. We know that all law works according to its own self, to the law itself, and that I have faith that Spirit or the universe or whatever, all that is acting on my prayer, on my affirmation, on my desires, is doing so as effectively and efficiently as possible. And yes, maybe instead of detailing my prayer as to how it will be demonstrated to me in such and such a way, and such a color, and such a time, perhaps there is an answer to my prayer that would be faster. But that doesn't make any prayer wrong. It just means that what I'm called to do is to be patient. So that's what my encouragement is today for anybody that is not in community, to try it, and to try it with an attitude that everyone else in that community is like me, in that they are from the same Creator, that they act in the same mind, that our consciousness is one. And if I do that, and everybody in the community is doing that, then that miracle of creating anew takes place. And it takes place only from that knowing of love, from that one heart. And that is the kind of creation that I want to be part of co-creating.
Thank you, God, for bringing us together. Thank you for bringing us Sharon to join us today, and bringing Liz back to us. And please keep Reverend Rhea Roth in your prayers, and Pastor Alex. They're both having bouts of ill health. Thank you for providing us this community, this time of sharing, of growth, of caring for one another. We ask and claim guidance that we can do your work, help the world become a better place as we walk through this world this week and until we return again. Help us to keep each other in mind, to lift each other up in prayer, to hold Maggie in prayer as she adjusts to her new environment. We thank you for letting each of us breathe each day and become ever more healthy in spirit, in mind, in body, and in wisdom. We give you full gratitude, dear God, for all the good you shower upon us, and that you enable us to share with others. We say thank you, thank you, thank you. And we all say, Amen.